Hey y'all, welcome back to the Yes We Can podcast. Today I have a friend of mine, Kristen, who's a co-owner of Lusso, on to talk about her journey with cancer and so much more.
So much more.
So much more.
So much more.
So thank you for coming to have this
You're welcome.
conversation today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yes,
First of all, it's
course.
an honor to be here, and I admire and respect you so much for what you've gone through.
You're so
and
sweet.
The connection that we've made because of that. It's real special.
It is special.
There aren't a lot of people that you can connect with along the way.
Right.
That have similarities in your journey.
Yeah, because it does. It feels isolating.
Yes.
Right? Cancer is, although so many people are diagnosed with cancer, you know, and of course it was my husband, it can really be an isolating disease. You feel like you're alone sometimes.
Yes, you do. I think that was probably the hardest part in the beginning, and continued to be the hardest part for probably 6 months. And I think that was primarily because there wasn't an outreach or an access to a story like me. You know, like my age, my diagnosis, my health, you know, going into stage 3 plus, which is how they define different stages now that we're a little more advanced than just a stage 3. But, you know, I had a considerable size tumor that I found, luckily, from 1 year to the next.
Really?
A 7-centimeter tumor appeared, and I felt it, and I found it. And
no kidding.
And I do self-checks, but it was one of those that you kind of blew off too, thinking, oh, I've always had dense tissue.
Yeah.
But this one just kind of kept haunting me a little bit. And all the reading and research you do, even then, like, is this a normal lump? Is this the normal way to feel? It's very vague as well.
I'm sure.
So
and you question yourself.
Finally just like call and say, I got to come in, I have a lump. And then they say, well, we can't do a 3D on you without a doctor's referral. So it all started with like, wait, I thought this was like, I think I have breast cancer.
Right.
Take you to the right place immediately.
Immediately.
And so even right off the bat, with research I did even prior to getting tested, biopsied and all of that, I felt like, I don't know where to go. I don't know who to talk to.
I know.
So that took some time getting the ball rolling even after I found out, which was pretty close to exactly 2 years ago. Today.
Wow.
Was when I was told. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah. I finally got through to the right clinic to get my full breast exam, as well as a 3D or I'm not quite sure what they call it, but they were the ones that saw me and said, yep, this is something, and then they call somebody else in and they call somebody else in. And I'm like, oh my God, what's happening?
Really? Like right then they're calling.
Right then and there, they're calling different technicians in. And of course, I think a lot of us have had that before, where they call and say, well, there's some dense tissue, we need to check it again. And I had that happen several times. So have my sisters and my cousins and friends I've known. It's kind of normal. And so you're kind of thinking, well, this is just normal. They're just double checking the fatty tissue.
Right.
But then it was all of a sudden really real.
Yeah.
Yeah, really real. And then I had to face that.
Yeah.
And do more research on what do I do next.
I can't even imagine. And I think this points to two, they teach us how to do self-exams when we're in school, at basic health classes or whatever. I don't even know what they teach now, but like it is important to do self-exams.
It's so important. I can't stress it enough. There was a time early in my diagnosis and when I was just kind of at the hospital all the time and every day, and anybody I would meet at work, at the shop or at the grocery store, and if they just wanted to engage into a conversation, maybe I lost my hair, there was some reason we connected, and I was just like, do your self checks. Do not ever miss an appointment. You've got that mammogram scheduled every January for the rest of your life. Don't ever miss it. And if something pops up, call everybody.
Right.
And I called everybody and luckily ended up over in Siteman with an amazing surgeon, an amazing care team that's like this long. And that's when it all started. But yeah, the importance of just being aware of your body. weightlifting and doing that type of workout with
Mhm.
my husband every day. It was kind of like, our kids are gone, we're going to go to the gym together. And it
Mhm.
was awesome. So at the point in which I was diagnosed, I was very strong, very fit, felt great.
Mhm.
Um, maybe wanted to lose some weight like everybody,
Right.
so I was very aware of my body. And I just knew, like, oh my God, I feel this.
Mhm.
I know this is not a muscle. I know this is not a fatty tissue. I know what it is.
Oh
And
my
then I dove
goodness.
in head first with all the best doctors.
Yeah, thank goodness we're
And
outside
then it
right
got
now.
crazy.
I know. Well, let's talk
We are
about
lucky.
I want to talk a little bit more about that, but let's talk about who you are, because you are not just a cancer patient and a cancer survivor. You are a
Right.
wife, a
Mm-hmm.
mom,
Mm-hmm.
a sister, a
Yeah.
business owner. So
Yeah.
prior to this happening, who are you? Who is Kristen?
So work has been my life.
Mm-hmm.
Retail has been my life,
Mm-hmm.
thanks to my dad. It's genetic, I think.
Okay.
I
And
don't know
what did
how.
your dad? Yeah.
So my dad was with Dillard's and Nordstrom and, all
Okay.
the big stores, and always
Yeah.
ran a big store. And,
Yeah.
we would do little store sets with him when he worked at a smaller store in Frontenac Plaza way back when we were kids. And,
Yeah.
it just was in my blood. I felt like, well, that's what I know. That's what I can do. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I went to school for. And that's what I started doing.
Mm-hmm.
So very aggressively looking for retail in a different way, because I don't necessarily want to sell and I don't want to be, ringing people out at the register, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
do that. I like to do design and store planning and
Mm-hmm.
floor planning and sets and display and merchandising.
Mm-hmm.
I like to create this shoppable environment with beautiful product.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what led me to Lusso in 2000, little after 2000. My dear friend and her sister opened the store and invited me to be a part of it. And I wasn't ready at first, but then I was, and then jumped in with
Mm-hmm.
3 of the most amazing women, and we all shared different talents and went hard to work there, but on a different schedule. I could be
On
home with
your
my
schedule, yeah.
kids. My youngest son was just entering kindergarten, and I thought that this is the right time.
Mm-hmm.
I missed a lot with my first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a husband who stayed home with the boys when I traveled a ton with my job early
Right.
on. And when he went to school at night or worked at night or whatever, we got by, but it was a hard working upbringing of ourselves as young adults and our kids.
Right.
It was cool. It was great. We were healthy.
Yeah.
We did lots of great things.
Right.
And I just kept working and plugging away. And
Mhm.
conversations like about breast cancer would come up amongst us. We're just a bunch of girls. And, you would think, well, there's 10 of us, say, so it's going to be one of us. Those thoughts like cross through your mind when you hear statistics out in the world. You can't help but think, which one? And
Yeah.
and I do remember that resonating with me when I found out. I was like, well, you guys are fine. I got it.
So 10 girls, meaning you, your sisters, your friends.
Yeah, so
your
4
group.
owners.
Okay.
Our moms all participated in working at Lusso.
Oh.
My sister, it was all family, but
Yeah.
there were times when it added up to about 10 of us
Yeah.
that we would, get together and chat and just
Yeah.
be girls and moms and sisters and friends.
Yeah. So an interesting story to match that. And this is brief, and I want you to continue. But I was in a room with a bunch of people, and one of my girlfriends beat stage 3 colorectal cancer, and her husband basically looked around the room and said, and many of you who follow my show know this story, but he looked around the room and said, "Thank you so much for being part of my wife's journey. You know, she's now cancer free. Amazing." But he was like, "This isn't it for us. Like, cancer is going to affect people in this room. 1 in 2 or 1 in 3 people, depending on what stats you look at, will get cancer." And I remember thinking to Kyle, like looking around and being like, I wonder who is going to be next.
Yeah, when you're exposed to it, I think you can't help
but question.
But
Yeah.
kind of look around at your group.
Yeah.
And of course, I immediately thought of my sisters.
Mm-hmm.
That was my biggest scare. And fortunately, I tested negative for BRCA. So they both tested negative for BRCA, all good there. So there was no like emergency jump to
Right.
them having to decide about a double mastectomy or whatever the course might have been. So we were very lucky there, but they're also more instinctively aware of their position as now being the
Genetically,
sister
yeah.
of a cancer survivor.
Yeah.
You know, your doctors ask you that every time you go in,
You
and now
fill
all of a
out.
sudden you're
Yep.
like, oh, my
Yeah.
sister, you know.
Yeah, it's so true. It's
Yeah.
these little things that
Yeah.
you don't realize until you're in there. You know, my mom died of a heart attack, but it's something now I have to click, you know, different than cancer. But then I think
Yeah.
about my children and our children.
Hmm. Yes.
They're going to have to say yes,
Yeah, exactly.
which is just, you know, wild. You never think, you know, you just don't think about that until it
No,
hits.
no, there's no reason to, really.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. So you guys start this business. Things are going great.
Yeah.
In 2000, you moved from a smaller location. Where was the smaller location?
So we used to be on North Merrimack,
Okay.
and there's a hair salon there now. We were in this space, very tiny, for a couple of years, and then expanded into the space next door. So maybe increased our square footage to like 1,000 from
Mhm.
500-600. And then we were asked if we would like to move over to the Crescent, which is right near the Ritz-Carlton, and
Mhm.
the Crescent Plaza building is luxury condos above us. So thank God they really wanted us, and we were like, oh, this is such a big step, but
Yeah.
we did it. We were like,
So
we
they,
got to take chances if we want to really make this happen.
and when was that?
That was in 2007.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Right. So we moved into this, double the square feet plus beautiful building that we built and designed from ground up. And that was a lot of fun to actually have our hands on all the architecture and design and
Yeah.
fixturing and floor. I was in heaven. I was in heaven. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Awesome.
And thank God it's still standing, and people still come to us, and we meet new customers on a regular because of our location. So it was a blessing that we moved.
Good.
It really was. I
So-
don't think we would be over there
Yeah,
anymore.
Still. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys are running this business.
Mhm.
You so 2007, it's the four of you.
Yep, 4 owners.
Four owners.
Yep.
Owners. Okay.
2 of those owners are sisters.
Okay.
Yep, who started the original Lusso.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not your sister.
Nope, not my sister.
Okay,
But
okay.
she is there and has been for years.
Then your sister joined. Okay. And then now you have two different divisions, or how does that?
So now we have 2 different divisions. It was sometime before COVID that we started branching out and doing some design work for local sports teams, really is how it
Mhm.
started, like the Cardinals.
Mhm.
When Ballpark Village was first built, we did a lot of design and created a retail store for them,
Mhm.
then started designing product for them. Then that caught on with Anheuser-Busch, and so we started designing and doing merchandising for the breweries
Mhm.
and all the brewery and Grants Farm gift shops. So it was kind of wild, but we were at a place where Lusso could allow us to kind of like dig into something else and see
Mhm.
if there's something out there for us.
Mhm.
And it was good. It was a lot of good exposure,
Mhm.
Ended up even doing stuff for the Blues, which still continues. So there's design work done at our design house downtown. They're still doing design work for local teams, as well as potentially the Vegas whoever, and the Salt Lake City whoever,
Yeah, right.
Utah Jazz, and
Yeah.
possibly Rams, and so they're growing collegiately and professional sports wise.
Yeah,
And their
awesome.
mission that we kind of found a void in right off the bat when we started working with these
Mhm.
stores and conglomerations, was to bring some female interest, because
Mhm.
everything was just a Hanes t-shirt that
Correct.
was too big, that had no style,
Yes.
and a silly picture on it, or a jersey.
Mhm.
So
Totally.
we wanted to try to find a way to bring beautiful product into an environment like that, because it's always men and women together
Yeah,
going to games,
absolutely.
always.
Totally.
So giving them
An option.
the hats with the sparkles on them,
Oh yeah.
the t-shirts that are cuter and styled to fit better.
Yeah.
And so then that's taken off, and Missy and Drea, basically, as COVID kind of shifted our world too, because things slowed down and of course closed down at the store for a bit,
Mhm.
they were able to take that and really create a monstrosity of a business that has just been growing since then
Mhm.
exponentially. So now they go to market and they actually show and tell and sell like we do on the opposite end, where Megan and I go to market and we buy
Right.
and look for creations, that
Right.
are beautiful for Lusso.
Right.
But Lusso style is just different in terms of its apparel,
Yeah.
mostly accessories,
Yeah.
but all geared towards high style in the sports world,
Yes. Yes. And
which
that's
has
what
been really cool.
I initially met you guys, because they were located at Empower downtown.
Right.
And I was down there with my business for a little bit. And I remember being like, what is all this cool merchandise, all this
Yeah.
sports stuff that sparkles? And like, because it is true. Even, my nephew plays football, and you go to the shop to like find, and there's just not
Right.
much for
Right.
women.
Yeah.
That's super cute.
Yeah. And if you think about the collegiate opportunity there, that's
Right.
all people want when their kids go to college.
Of course.
Is to buy the first sweatshirt or t-shirt or, to celebrate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're into that realm now too, which is really awesome.
So that's
It's so much that I can't keep up with it. So I kind
Yeah.
of have a general idea of what they're doing, but it's really good.
It's great. And
Yeah.
that's called Lusso style.
Lusso style.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that started in what year?
If they have an official start year, I'm going to say it's like 2022, 21. It kind of happened during the COVID times.
I'm trying to think.
And they did have that office at Empower for
Yeah.
some time. Now they have a new office, super cool
Yeah.
office on Jefferson at another really great like advertising type building.
Yeah.
So they're just kicking
Yeah.
on, doing
Because
great.
I'm trying to create this picture so people realize like life was good.
Mm-hmm.
You went from corporate to running a business with your family and friends. Things are
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
You're raising your kids. You're home with your kids. Things are swimmingly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going pretty well.
Right.
This business is growing. Lusso's growing. And then what happens, right? Like how many years?
Yeah.
What year did you get diagnosed?
I was diagnosed 2 years ago, 2023, this time of year. That's my every year mammogram is in January. And the reason I wasn't diagnosed in January was because I had to do a little bit of that hopping around to get the right tests done and get to the right hospital for me. Because they did find, after biopsies, a very aggressive cancer. So I recall after one of the tests calling the shop and saying, "You're not going to believe this. I have breast cancer. And it's pretty bad." It's not like, I think they can tell you, yes, you have breast cancer, and it's new, it's small. I don't know how they would say it or how they would talk about it, but I think they say you're going to be good. We caught it early, and they did catch mine early. I mean, things could have been fatal and much worse, and it could have spread worse and all of that. But it was like, I have stage 3 or 4, because at the time it was questionable, breast cancer. So I won't be coming back in.
Yeah.
Megan and Jenny. So anytime I call, we're typically on some kind of speaker. So my sister and Megan.
I bet they were waiting for a call to find.
Yes. Everybody was on pins and needles.
Yeah.
I had so much support.
Good.
And I mean, nobody wanted the outcome, but
of course,
once that outcome was brought about, everybody who knew anybody got to work on how to get me to the right place and the right people. I was very fortunate to have some friend and family connections to Siteman. So that was like a no-brainer, but then also a connection to very specific doctors who helped me along my way, who I was immediately tied to. I didn't have to question that. I think maybe some people go into it and want to, get a second opinion or a different doctor, like I didn't have to do that. Thank God. I had a really good team.
So you knew, because that's the difficult part about this is if you don't know, if you don't, have the connections and the fact that we even have to have connections in healthcare.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel bad about that. I got to tell you.
Well, you don't have to feel bad. I mean, we are the same way.
Yeah.
Kai, through his work, it's
yeah.
And the fact we have to have that.
Yeah. I mean, I like to guess, I say it was meant to be, right place, right time, right people,
Yeah.
which is, that goes back to a lot of times I just say, know your people, know your surroundings, know who can do what for you, and know what they do, know what everybody does, because you never know when you might
Right.
need
That's true.
a question answered or a connection to somebody, because looking for the resources that weren't the automatic ones was the hardest part. Resources for different types of care.
Yes.
Yeah. All the external care.
Yeah.
That was a whole different story that involved a ton of praying and a ton of putting my name and the word out there, that I really felt like I needed something in addition to everything that was being done on the inside of my body and what was happening to the outside of my body. It wasn't right. That was not a balance for me that I could handle. But I think you're made to believe, just go with it. It'll be good. We'll get through this. We've got 6 months here and then 6 months there and then 3 months there, and you're like, okay. But then there's all these other little things.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true, because the doctor's trying to get rid of the cancer.
Yes.
But there's so much, like, that is their focus.
Mhm.
How do we get rid of the cancer?
Yes.
But there's so much surrounding that they don't have the time, ability, knowledge, and I've been having this conversation with people recently about how doctors, I think they are able to compartmentalize, and they're able to,
they are very good at that.
Right, but they don't, like, I remember just all the soft stuff, call it, right? Like the mental health piece and vitamins and all these things that weren't being addressed, that I was, like you, searching around trying to find people to help, like, what vitamin should he be on?
Should you or should you not?
Right. And,
that was tough for me too, because I kind of lived in a world of healthy supplements.
Yeah.
Whether it was, plant-based protein or, muscle recovery after a gym workout or turmeric because it just made me feel good. Like that's how I lived my life. Pretty darn healthy.
Yeah.
I did drink. That was the only thing that probably wasn't the best thing, but everything else I took really good care of.
Yeah.
And it's something you want to continue doing, even when you're being poisoned all the way to your core. It's like, how do I take care of this? How do I take care of this and this, and this? And some of it was mental, and some of it, there were physical solutions that dropped into my lap by kind of putting the word out there, or at least just talking. I talked about it a lot, but I didn't blog, and I didn't do a caring page. I didn't put it on Facebook. I'm a little more of a private person that way, but I almost wished I was brave enough to have done it, because I think that would have helped somebody.
Well, today, what we're talking about here will probably help somebody, and at that time,
I hope so.
All these things are swirling around, and it's like your life is going well, and then a bomb is dropped.
Yep.
And the bomb's dropped often.
Yes.
Not, I say that being that it's more often than we think, but until the bomb drops in your life, it's hard to really wrap your head around it.
It is. And it's hard to explain. And it sounds like a lot of complaining, but it's more so explaining what horrible things you're feeling and dealing with. And
the reality.
It's important to put those things out there to, like, get them off your chest, those hard times and the, really nasty things, and fill them with something positive. And I really did have some fortune in having some positive things dropped into my lap.
Yeah.
For skincare. And
like what was there? Because there's a company here in St. Louis. Were they around when you were going through?
There's a new company called Vivia
Yeah.
Concierge. I was exposed to them out of the blue by receiving a gift certificate from a dear friend who was just like, I don't know what to do. She's a touch base and a say and a prayer kind of gal, and an amazing friend. But she did this above and beyond, had a relationship with somebody who owns this company and knew that they did oncology facials. No one had ever heard of an oncology facial. And even since then, there are things like lymphatic massage and there's other things, but an oncology facial and skincare routine saved my outer being so much. The woman that did the facials for me taught me so much, even about how to prepare my skin for radiation.
Really?
I kind of thought radiation was going to be a piece of cake. Like,
yeah,
all right, I have to do it. Okay, I have to go every day for 25 days or whatever. But it was terrible. And when you think about when you're done, what they've done to your skin, like literally burning it, again, from the inside out, and what this gal Kim had done for me with certain barrier lotions, protection lotions, oils, essential oils that will help your scars not burn worse than your skin and help your skin not burn like a piece of meat when they have you under this radiation machine. And I've had different therapists and doctors who have had to work with me and look at me and say, how does your skin look so good? Did you really have radiation? So it was a little thing like that, but such a big thing because I don't want to be sunburnt on one half of my body and my neck for the rest of my life. I don't want to have marks. I already have enough marks. I've got scars everywhere. But what she taught me was so priceless, just in terms of scar care, skin care, and preparation for the upcoming treatments. I was still in chemo. I was still a few months of chemo and then radiation and then a surgery, So it was really cool to meet somebody who really wanted to focus and customize their practice on oncology patients.
Yeah, and understand.
Have so many little tips. Like I shared a lot of tips with her. I read a book. I read a lot of books, or I should say glanced through a lot of books. Some were very technical, medical. Some were, kind of on the fun, flippant side of cancer. And one of my favorites, there was a page I read about nail care. So I didn't know, and I don't even think it was listed in the side effects, what chemo can do to your fingernails and your toenails. And it's terrible, unless you don't care about your fingernails and your toenails. I don't know, but they could literally fall off and, of course, grow back and everything. But I read a little blurb that this gal, Chris Carr, I think, she wrote a book called Crazy Sexy Cancer. And she just had some things in there like, don't wash your hair. Paint your nails with only non-toxic nail polish. Like never for the rest of your life use toxic nail polish again. And that's how she wrote it. I read it. That's how I heard it. And stopped using, the gels and the stuff that we do. And really thought about what I was putting in my body from the surface down, from the sunscreens to the nail polish to the shampoos and the hair care products that all have these toxins that are just, maybe they're bad for you and they're bad for you to a degree. But what they do when you're a cancer patient or about to be is they weaken those areas. So if you're in that routine of using certain products, that chemo gets in you and it goes for all the weak spots. And the weak spots, of course, are fingernails. You've got this very thin membrane around your fingers. And her other thing was paint your nails black or the darkest color you can, because it'll create a shadow so that the chemo drugs don't necessarily push all the way into your fingers. And we're already doing this care to our heads and hair and hands and feet with ice, like cryotherapy. Have you seen that treatment?
But this is,
so they freeze while you're in your chemo for hours and hours and hours and hours. They put frozen ice packs on your feet and on your hands. And this is all voluntary. This is all like,
Yeah.
this is something we're trying to
Mhm.
hope maybe ward off neuropathy or
Mhm.
help preserve the nail beds,
Mhm.
things like that. And I would be like, I am all over that.
Mhm.
If that's going to keep my fingernails from falling off,
Mhm.
do it 10 times. I don't care. And
Mhm.
then they would put the ice caps on your head too to preserve the follicles and the health of your scalp,
Mhm.
whatever health there is, while you're having chemo blasted into your scalp. You know, it was, I mean, that's why everybody's hair falls out, is because the chemo goes to your follicles and it falls out. And mine didn't fall out entirely, but I will say it fell out, and I wore wigs, and I had so much fun with wigs for a few months. And then it started growing back, and it was crazy. It was thick and curly and wild, and I've already had 4 haircuts.
Yeah.
So I feel like there were things that I learned that I did that made it just a little bit better, a little less yucky.
Mhm.
And that was just from, you know, little dribbles and drabbles of maybe something you read, or maybe something
Yeah.
you heard, or maybe, you know, you're given a gift of a facial by, you know, somebody who's very smart and all they want to do is talk about oncology and saving your skin during cancer treatments, because your skin gets messed up and there's easy ways to ward that off.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned them because I've been in contact with them. I've talked with the owners.
Oh, yeah.
About helping
They're so
promote
good.
what they do, because that stuff, and dare I say again, the soft side of it is really important. You know, because even Kyle, who was a male, had a hard time losing his hair and the integrity of his skin. And
Yes.
I mean, it's really that kind of stuff matters, and matters to the patient.
It really does. It makes you feel worse. There's no doubt about it.
Of course, you look in the mirror and you feel like crap, and then you look in the mirror and you're like, I wish that I had this. I wish I can only imagine.
Yeah. I think one of the books I read or read a page of, talked about getting up every day. And no matter what condition you're in, try to get yourself up every day, get yourself together. I would get up and I would sit at my makeup table and I would get my wig on and put a little makeup on and some moisturizers and lotions and potions and all the jazz. And I might just go right back to bed, but at least I would get up. I might have a cup of coffee. I might have a visitor, and then I was done. But there were not many days that I missed. Even as sick as I was, it was very important just to try to do that.
Yeah.
You know, there's clean makeup out there and there's clean moisturizers like we've discussed, but as long as you're putting the right stuff on your skin and a little mascara that's organic, and it's just going to make you feel better.
Right.
And like I said, you might just go right back to bed or get sick
okay.
while you're in the bathroom,
right,
trying to get yourself ready. But it was really important to just try to do that.
I think it helped.
I do. I think that helped immensely.
How mentally, how did you you have a supportive husband and supportive children.
Yep. So great.
And family. But I mean, how with a diagnosis like this, how did it affect you mentally? I mean, did you stay positive? Or how did you do it?
Really good question, because I think I was on a different planet. I handled it by not thinking about it too much. Never did I really think about the diagnosis or what was going on in my body or what was coming up. All the surgeries, all the treatments, all that, I really was just like, okay, let's just do this. It weighed on me mentally, but I don't think the weight of that has shown its ugly head until recently. I think I plowed through, and so with an amazing support group. Yeah, you mentioned my husband, and my kids live in Utah, so they were able to, surprise me one visit and see me one Christmas, but they didn't see me a lot, which was good. They did not need to see me, but they were great from afar. And my husband was awesome. My sister, who lives in Austin, she practically lived with us for a year. because it really at times took the two of them to manage the situation,
Mhm.
whether it was who's coming over,
Mhm.
maybe they shouldn't come over,
Mhm.
who wants to bring over a lasagna,
Mhm.
don't bring a lasagna,
Mhm.
just don't, it's like food was like a whole other
Mhm.
crazy, I'm sure you can relate.
Mhm.
It was important, but not important.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when people would want to bring food, I just wanted to have a sign on the door that said,
Mhm.
so appreciate it.
It's
But
so nice, but
it's so nice, but it's the wrong answer.
I know.
Yeah. So, the flowers were lovely.
Mhm.
The gift certificate to get the oncology facial was beyond
Huge.
amazing.
Mhm.
The visits by the people who my sister and my husband knew would make me feel better were
Mhm.
beyond
Mhm.
description. Just
Mhm.
so good. But few and far between. I just couldn't handle a lot.
I mean,
I just,
yeah.
and when I could get to work as weak and completely unimportant and unproductive, I would just go. I would just go to be there. I have my wig on and nobody would know who I was really, or they would think I did something to my hair.
Yeah.
So that, you just do what you do to feel normal when you can.
When you can't, totally.
And you probably know there's only a few days. I would have treatment and I would be good for a day, and then I would be out for 12 to 14 days. And then I'd have another 4 days of life, of feeling okay, getting sushi.
Mhm.
That was a big thing for me. It was like the only food I could taste.
Mm.
So, like I said, food was not important because I couldn't taste it or it tasted like hell. It just
Yeah.
terrible. And it made me so sick.
But you could do sushi.
But I could eat sushi on the day before chemo every time. It's like that very tail end, one day before my next treatment.
You feel the
I've
best
got
you're
a
gonna
day.
feel.
It's like the best day ever.
Yep.
And I would have sushi. It was a tradition.
Where'd you get sushi from?
Sushi Station in Webster. And they sort of brought us on like a family too. It was so cute.
They did.
Because they, of course, heard, eventually why we were all of a sudden there all the time. And it was actually there that I got the phone call that my diagnosis was what it was.
Oh my gosh.
So it kind of started there, but it started a nice little tradition to sort of make me want to go see them and show them I'm okay. And show them that I love the support that they've been giving me and my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I go every once in a while, but
sweet.
I'm going to have to support them more.
So sweet. Yeah. The nicest people. She still texts me and checks up on me.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm telling you, little angels dropped from the heavens in so many forms during this whole thing. And there's so many more that I haven't even touched on, but there's a few.
Yeah. Thank God. Little God winks, I say. People, places that help you get through. So you were diagnosed in 23.
Yep.
How many rounds of chemo and then radiation?
So I had 6 rounds of chemo were originally planned, and then 6 more after that were like a diet chemo. Call it that. It was 2 of the 4. The first 6 rounds were the TCHP, which is super hardcore. There's a nickname for it, but I chose not to remember it because it was a weird, scary nickname.
Yeah.
So I just go with the acronyms. But that was the treatment that, from day one, you felt it. You were like, oh God, what's going on? Your skin would fall apart and your stomach would tear apart. And I ended up at Siteman over and over and over just for fluids because I couldn't walk and I'm in a wheelchair and my sister's pushing me in to get fluids. It's like things like that. Nobody said you might just completely lose
everything.
Everything. So much energy.
Yep.
You might just feel so bad that you want to die, which I did. There was one day where I was just like, I just would be better off if I died. But then I was like, no, my kids, okay. I snapped out of it real fast, but that's how bad it was. And they're wheeling me in, and I'm like, why am I in a wheelchair? Nobody said I might end up in a wheelchair just to get fluids, because that's how bad it gets. Your blood pressure, your everything, your passing out, it's a lot. Nobody prepared me for that. And no books either that I read even mentioned things like that.
Mm-mm.
So I figured it out, but it was the worst. It was the worst part, just getting through that first horrible chemo,
Yeah.
which was weeks and weeks and weeks. And a side note, this is kind of fun. My husband and I took a little getaway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've told you about this.
Mm.
Up to Colorado one weekend. It was like the good weekend right before my
Mhm.
next treatment. It's just the place we go. It's like our place,
Mhm.
and turned out my port was infected and viciously getting even more infected as days went on.
Mhm.
Of course, I went and got all checked out and treated and fluids and everything the night before we
Mhm.
left, and
Mm.
everything was fine. Everything was cool. I mentioned I had a sore shoulder. Seemed kind of weird, like I lifted too much weight or something.
Mhm.
And they were like, "You're good." I was good. So I got up there, and before you know it, I think before the end of day two, I was in septic shock and almost died. And fortunately, it was just miles from the only trauma hospital up above 10,000 feet.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it's like they were waiting for me. Nobody was there. Nobody was in the emergency room. The trauma surgeon happened to be there. They identified the poison almost immediately. But we were panicked. We were like,
How did you know you were
we're in
going
our
to
condo, and Tony's like, "Oh my God, I think you're dying. Something really bad is
How
happening."
did you know that?
Well, so it was an infection really tucked in, like under my shoulder blade and inside where the port sits. It was
Mhm.
literally filled with the infection. So I didn't really have the side effects that maybe would be obvious, like a severe fever,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
I had chills, like I was tired and I just wanted to be in warm water.
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
muscles hurt, and then I just went downhill. And Tony called one of my doctors here in St. Louis, Judy, who I mentioned
Mhm.
to you earlier, who's
Mhm.
not exactly a connection, because I didn't really have a connection with any of my doctors yet. It was early on. It was
Mhm.
like
Mm.
6 weeks in, maybe.
Yeah.
So we were stuck in Colorado with the Division of Poison Control, trying to get a hold of the Division of Poison in Missouri so that they could okay an emergency surgery in the mountains in
Oh my
Colorado.
gosh.
It was a trip, and it was like, I luckily was like out. So I was pretty much out. They just,
You were out of it.
yes, completely. By the time we got to the ER, I was just like, okay, this is bad. I gotta lay down or whatever. And they went wild and took care of it. But once Missouri and Colorado got together and said, okay, somebody from Denver is going to fly up in infection control and manage it
Wow.
and get me ready to come home, like that was a trip. That was wild. And we had to stay there. I had to be isolated there for like 2 weeks. So I was in the
Why?
hospital for a week. The poison was so bad they couldn't release me until they got the poison out.
The poison, meaning the infection.
Yes. So the blood was poisoned to a degree that I had to be monitored at all time.
Wow.
Yeah. Can't go home. Have to have a home nurse come to my condo every day.
And so therefore you're not seeking treatment. You couldn't go back to treatment. You had to
No,
skip.
I had to skip treatment. So therefore, my first round of the real nasty chemo got postponed a little bit because I was on IV antibiotics for 8 weeks. And once we could fly home, I'm not even kidding, with our cooler of all the medicines and all the shots, all the
Mhm.
stuff, it was crazy. It was like, I'm like, Tony, are you going to be able to handle this? And he handled it like a professional, like a pro.
Mhm.
And again, my sister came up and met us and helped us all the way through. But it was
She came
a
up to
big
Colorado.
hiccup. She did. And that was just to kind of help get me home. Here we've got these coolers of stuff. I can barely walk. And every 3 hours, we have to inject my PICC line with.
You got a PICC line?
Uh-huh.
Oh my Lord.
Mm-hmm. So we're waiting for the plane. I got to go in the nursing room, where the moms are nursing their babies, and get my PICC line done with all the antibiotics, before we get on the plane. So that was like that was a wild nightmare that turned out, again, beautiful. It was the most fabulous hospital I've ever seen. I felt like I was in heaven. The doctors
Wow.
were angels.
Where was it? Where in
This
Colorado?
was St. Anthony's Hospital in, I believe it's in Dillon, maybe Dillon, Frisco, Breckenridge. It's right in that quadrant. And we stay in Breckenridge. So we were in Breckenridge where I was sick, and the hospital's, like 15 minutes away. Luckily, thank God. So, and then the guys flew up from Denver and did all that. I was on like big screens with conference calls with different medical field people from the poison control center. I mean, it was so weird. I'm like, what did I do?
What is going on?
And
why is this? What is this?
Yeah. Why is this happening? I realized you just saved my life. They literally saved my life up there, and did the emergency surgery to have the port taken out. So
took the port out. Oh my gosh.
So I know that this must happen to a lot of people.
It has to.
It happened to me for whatever reason. Nobody will ever know. We just won't talk about it, right? And the surgeon, when he took it out, said he had never seen anything like it before. It basically exploded out of my chest when he cut me open. It was that bad. It was filled with all of the poison, which is just gross stuff, right? Coming out of your body. So not only did I have the PICC line and the antibiotics and everything, but I also had an open wound that I never knew about open wound care, but you have to keep it open.
Oh yeah.
Until it heals from the inside out.
Yeah.
Worst thing ever. So here's my husband doing all the stuff, the antibiotics, but then he also had to clean out the big hole in my chest and pack it twice a day. I think it was twice a day. Yeah.
So where did they put the new port?
So then, so we had to wait until St. Louis Poison Center said, okay, you're good. Let it heal a little bit more. And then my surgeon put another port in. And luckily, I was praying that she could do this, put it in the same spot so that they would not have to go after the side over your heart, but they could go into the same spot, which she did, which in turn, another scar, another insertion of a device. But what I've learned about scar care, I think I've got it mastered. It's good. So it's gone. And then we got back on the train to chemo.
Well, doesn't that freak you out? Like, because Kyle had the same thing where we had to back off because of things infections and.
Yeah.
So then from a cancer patient and caregiver standpoint, you're thinking, well, my cancer's going to grow while all this is happening.
Oh, yeah. I was a little bit afraid about that.
Yeah. Because cancer's not going to wait for the side.
And not the cancer I had. The tumor I had was very aggressive and grew. It grew within the time in which my oncologist would, measure it from, day one, next week, measure it. It was growing until we really got into the chemo. So that did scare me a bit. But I was more consumed with what was going on over here. It was pretty terrible.
Wild. Goodness gracious. So
so that was a little bit of a blip in chemo. In the big time chemo months, I had that happen. And right place at the right time again. And then continued on with the secondary chemo after surgery. So by September of that year, I had my double mastectomy and lumpectomy. So I had several lymph nodes taken as well that had been biopsied with cancer.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah. So that all happened one day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That was actually kind of a fun day. It was a good surgery. The surgeon's amazing. The techs were amazing. Everybody was so kind. And I got home and felt good. I felt good for a couple of days after that surgery. It was
because they gave you good meds.
Unbelievable. I think I had really good meds. Okay. Yeah. And I couldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then is there a little bit of relief? I mean, and if I'm asking questions that are too personal or you don't want it, but like, is it a relief then? Like, is there some sort of relief? Like, okay, those are off.
Yeah.
It's out. Like, I mean,
it's a really good question. And I don't know that I had a ton of relief.
Mhm.
I was a fortunate candidate who received direct to implant double mastectomy.
Mm.
So I didn't have to go through what some people do where they have like spacers for a bit
Yeah.
or there was no waiting.
Okay, that's
was
good.
just a good candidate to do the double mastectomy, put the implants in.
Right
So it was
away.
like this surgeon did this part and then the plastic surgeon
No kidding.
came and did the rest. So it was one on
Interesting.
top of the other, same day, same bed.
Okay, that's amazing.
Pretty amazing. It's a I think fairly new or advanced in certain people with the right body type. If you've got the space and you've
Mhm.
got the skin and all of
Oh
that
my
that's
gosh.
involved. So luckily that happened. So when I woke up, I had boobs.
Right.
And I was like, what is what? Of course, I wanted them to be smaller, but that's not the point. They just did what fit, and that's
Yeah,
cool.
and you're like, okay, fine, I'll roll with it.
Fine, whatever. The cancer's gone, and
Yeah.
that was a big deal. And then, of
Yeah.
course, with the cancer all out, they could track all the markers and
Right.
get the staging more clear and the diagnosis a little more clear.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was nothing worse. It was just, that's where it kind of became a little more of a stage 3 and not a 3.1 or
Good.
yeah.
Because it hadn't spread other than those 3 lymph nodes.
Yeah.
Praise God.
Yeah, I know.
And then from that point on, it's recovery time.
So
right?
Lots of recovery. That was during the holiday. Here's how I work. I had to try and make sure that the schedule for surgery fell at a certain time so that I could get the Christmas setup done at Lusso
Mm-hmm.
without being in too much pain or
Mhm.
maybe too much chemo situation. So we timed it so that there was 2 to 3 weeks after my surgery of recovery, then I could go into Lusso and we could do it like we do as a whole team with
Yeah.
moms and everybody, decorate the store for Christmas.
I love that.
Yeah. I wasn't really worth much, but at least I was there.
Oh, I mean, of course, your presence
It was cool.
alone.
It was a lot of fun.
Good.
So made that happen.
And that was 2024.
That was still in 23.
Oh, 23.
That was still in
Obviously, 24
23
was
because
just
right after my surgery was like towards the end of
Okay.
23, and then recovery from that, getting jumping back into the next chemo that was just Herceptin and Perjeta, which is a much easier
Is that
medicine.
Maintenance chemo or
No, it's I don't know what they would call it. It's
Mhm.
not it's what I was taking before, but it was like scaling it
Mhm,
back.
mhm.
So maybe it is a maintenance or like a just in
Lighter, yeah,
case
yeah,
or
yeah.
let's cover every basis
Right.
kind of thing.
Mhm.
But it didn't make you nearly as sick and
Good.
nearly as damaged.
Yeah.
There was, still the hair loss and,
Yeah.
all the obvious stuff, but
Mhm.
it didn't rip you apart.
Good.
Yeah. And then I jumped into radiation that I thought would be a piece of cake and relaxing, but it turns out that that's scary as
Not the
hell.
case.
Yeah. Did you ever go in with Kyle?
He never had radiation.
He didn't. It's such a weird thing. So
Mhm.
again, something I wasn't really prepared for, something that I wished I'd read somewhere
Mhm.
or that one of my doctors or somebody would have said, here's what you can be prepared for.
Mhm.
I should have figured it out when they made a cast of my body that I have to lay in with no clothes on by yourself in a room with this giant machine and laser beams all over the room.
Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. I made sure I could take a picture of it with the girls. I'm like, you guys, I have to take a picture of this because if I don't, I won't remember it. It'll be some crazy nightmare that I wake up to one night.
Yes.
But
no one will have any idea.
They put these eyes on the big machine
Mhm.
to make it look kind of like a
Mhm.
cartoon dinosaur kind of. So I don't know. I guess that was supposed to take the pain away a little bit. But you walk into this and then you lay in the cast of your body and they cover you with cello and all this stuff that's supposed to protect the burn, which I think there were some advantages to that. Another newer
Mhm.
concept that I don't think a lot of people do, but they kind of wrap you in saran wrap so that the burn isn't as bad. And but you lay there by yourself and hold your breath and you're put into awkward positions and the nurses are all behind the
Mhm.
blacked out windows and
Telling you what to do.
telling you what to do and how long to hold your breath. And I had no idea I could hold my breath as long as I did. But I probably should have been doing breathing exercises beforehand. I mean, it's a good thing I did a
Well,
lot of
no,
yoga.
Start breathing exercises.
Yes,
Yeah, I
yeah,
bet.
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that made a difference for me.
Of course.
And some people are put into terribly awkward positions when they go into radiation and have to put like balls like into their gut, you know, to push against a organ or, you know, I mean, it's what they do is just mind blowing. But
Yeah.
I really thought that would be like kind of chill and cool, but it was very nerve raging,
Yeah.
scary. It was very scary because you had to be by yourself too. I mean, it wasn't even worth bringing a friend. I could bring you and you would
Yeah.
sit in the waiting room outside the actual radiation
Mhm,
department.
mhm,
You can't even go back there.
mhm.
And then I, you know, lay there and I do my thing and then I get up and leave and I would just go back to work, you know. So it's not even one of those where you want to bring a friend.
Right.
You know, I
Right.
always had a friend at chemo and I
Yeah.
always
Oh yeah.
had my people at surgeries and stuff.
Yeah. Of
And,
course. Of course.
but that was one where you just had to be alone. It's really weird.
Gosh, Kristen, you've been through so much.
It has been a lot. It has.
But you're doing great. Look, and I'm gonna tear up. I mean,
Well,
to come on here and share your story, I know it's not easy, you know, and there's a lot of
no.
people who have been in similar shoes,
Yeah,
you know, and a lot
so
of
many.
People that are listening that may currently have cancer.
Mhm.
But to hear your story about what you've gone through, and then, you know, now today, you know, you're still standing.
Yes.
You're doing well.
Yes.
It's not easy, right?
It is not easy in a lot of different ways. I mean, I'm faced with challenges yet again I wasn't told I might face or prepared for.
Yeah.
There's guilt.
Mm-hmm.
I've known a couple of women in particular who did not make it.
Yeah. Survivor's guilt's a real thing.
Your husband didn't make it, you know, like so many people you hear. And it's only then that I realize I survived. And that's so sad. It just is undeniably sad for me. And I'd never really heard that survivor's guilt
Yeah.
term, but it makes so much sense because you just wonder, in my position, I wonder, you know, what if they knew about this? Or what if they went to that doctor?
I
Or
know.
what, you know, what if? And of course, there's no way I can even know 5 stories. You know,
Right.
it's one of those things where I just wish I could scream it out into the world, you know, to ask questions and to look and find the right answers, no matter how hard it is
Yes.
to ask.
Be an advocate, ask questions. If you're not getting the right answer, keep asking.
Yeah.
Keep calling.
Right.
Because it's true, you know. Not all doctors are the same. Not all hospitals are the same.
No.
And some
learned that.
Right. Right. And you really do have to be your advocate and fight for your right to live, because there are a lot of people getting diagnosed. And, you know, if you have the energy, because that's half the battle, you know, like Kyle didn't have the energy to be calling and, you know.
No, thank God I had my sister or my husband speak for me for a long time. Not only speak for me, but answer questions for me because I couldn't form a logical statement. Or I couldn't remember what the doctor said to me in the hospital.
You have to write it down or we wouldn't even.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God I journaled my entire year.
You did.
I did. And I did it as a practice so that when, you know, day 17 would come along, I would know how close I am to feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
When day 4 came along, I knew not to put an ounce of food in my body, you know, for 3 days. Maybe get a protein drink in you, and that's it. But it's probably going to come out. Don't eat salads. You know, like I learned so many things by journaling because I would write down what I ate, what I drank, what I took, if anything, how I felt. Every action that was a reaction to something through the night or whatever, I wrote down. So
smart.
And it basically set me up for, I gotta be careful about this one. I gotta not eat that day, or
That's good. That's smart. Smart advice.
It really helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know not all chemotherapy programs put you in that position
Right.
of utter sickness. And thank God for that. I think a lot of women are, kind of getting on the right drug, and it's not as damaging and it's not as hardcore, depending on their stage and their size of their tumor, as well as their age and everything. And they're maybe getting through it without, I'm just going to call it drama. It was just a lot of drama that came along. And I'm so grateful to hear that from people. But then at the same time, I also know there's people who are taking the same meds that I had to get rid of a big tumor that was wanting to just grow faster and faster and eventually spread.
What type of cancer? What is the name of your cancer? Just for people who are listening.
So
maybe.
I had an invasive ductal carcinoma, and it was HER2 positive, which has become a common, you'll hear it on television commercials when they're talking about immunotherapy drugs that they'll give for that, which thank goodness I did not have to take, because I was through menopause and they're not having to worry about that for me, which is great.
Oh,
it's like the only good news that kind of came along the old drug path. So that was it. It's a very common, highly researched form of cancer, the HER2 positive. And there's some variations in it. Estrogen, positive or negative,
right.
which I had to be careful of with my estrogen. Speaking of like supplements and going back to all of that and vitamins, you just got to be careful of where is estrogen? It's in a lot of places. It's in a lot of foods and a lot of supplements.
Yeah.
But that was my diagnosis. And I feel like a book should have come along with it that really told me not just what the side effects could be, but when you have those side effects, what to do about them.
Maybe you could
felt like
create a book with your journal.
I wish I could write a book, but I don't know that I can. I don't know that.
Well, you don't have to make that choice right now.
Right, exactly. But I do think about it because they give you this binder and there's all this information. And I remember finally having the guts to go through the binder and saving certain pages and tearing out certain pages and, coming along to the page that says we offer therapy. If you just call this number, and I did that, and it helped me for a short time. But if I hadn't really read the page or thought about it, I easily would have torn that page out, because I would have thought early on, why do I need a therapist? But now I think I really need a therapist.
Yes.
So we're on this like hangover or PTSD stage in my coming about, because I may have felt better a year ago than I do today. And there's these little things that hang on, and then there's things that your body does, probably due to what was in my body, even though the chemotherapy drugs they're probably out, but I just can feel that some of them are hanging out there a little bit. And I'm just trying to grow out the badness of it all. But I think that the doctors, the professionals, they want to think that the chemo is gone and the radiation is gone.
Of course,
the radiation is doing stuff to me with side effects of neuropathy.
Right.
The chemo has got me on some side effects of just sleep, bad sleep, like skin I'm still managing. It lingers like a hangover.
It does.
It's so frustrating. And that's definitely something all of the most amazing doctors ever don't want to talk about, because they know that they got the cancer out.
Right. And that's their agenda.
They know that the radiation was a complete success.
Correct.
They know that the surgery was a complete success.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah.
For sure. But then it's
the aftermath.
Yeah.
I just had a
There's
conversation
a
with
lot
someone today
of
about
aftermath.
The aftermath of, life moves on for a lot of people, and for the patient, for the families, for the kids, we're left in the rubble, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like we have to pick back up and try to live life again. And like, what does that look like? How do you move forward now as a cancer survivor, right? An owner of a business.
Yeah. I'm trying to go back to who I was, but I am
not that person.
So not that person.
Correct.
And I don't want to disregard that, but I feel like it would be easier if I did.
No, I totally
and just
know
try
what
to
you
be
mean.
me, just keep trying to be me. But something always pops up and comes to me at night, or I'm having a conversation like with you, or and it's just 100% something I have got to deal with now, is how to move forward, because you can say move forward.
Oh yes, there's lots of things people say, and you should, and the shoulds,
People look at you and say, you look amazing.
You look great.
You feel so good. I can tell you're glowing. This is so great. And I just want to collapse when people say that.
Yeah, I can relate to that so much.
Yeah, I bet. It's a hard one. It really is. And I guess that's where I am. In a 2-week time frame, I have, I think, 4 doctor's appointments. One, dealing with neuropathy and tingling that came from being in the wrong position when I was in surgery. One with a medical therapist who hopefully can help the anxiety that I have, and the how to manage looking back at what I just went through, and how do I get past that, and who am I, and how do I make that a good thing and make it good for other people? Because I really do. After 2 years, I feel like people are sick of hearing me talk about it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I feel bad sometimes when I might go into something, especially if it has to do with something that just doesn't feel right. Like something's still lingering and not right, and I need to go see somebody about it.
And I feel bad. You got to trust yourself.
Yes, and I'm more adamant than ever about addressing every little thing. And that will get you to the right person who can fix you. I mean, even in my exercise, I do a gyrotonic method exercise, and it was introduced to me as kind of a form of rehabilitation after surgery. And this particular teacher focuses in on breast cancer surgery recovery. And again, dropped in my lap like little angel, started doing some physical therapy with her, which I call it that. It's loose, but it's truly a method of exercise. And she's very knowledgeable. She actually had breast cancer 5 years ago, is studying a new program for actual breast surgery recovery.
What is that? That's in St. Louis?
Yeah.
What's it called?
Gyrotonic STL. It's an amazing gym.
Gyrotonic STL.
I think I brought her card. I think I did. She has an amazing gym in Brentwood, and it's a mix of things, all types of, workout, weights, training, group training, private training. But I connected with her and wanted to help her on this breast cancer research for a book, like an actual training manual that she's writing with another group of people from overseas. This all kind of started in Germany. And I have found it. Now, had I known about it any earlier, I probably would have started it even a few weeks after my surgery. I wouldn't have waited the 6 to 8 weeks or whatever they tell you to wait. It's not necessary. I needed to move, and so I was doing it on my own, and then I just happened to find Anne at Gyrotonic, and she was showing me how to move and how to work through tightness from surgery, tightness from scars. I mean, I have scars all over me.
You do.
And the limitations that those scars were creating in just a simple exercise or a stretch or a movement, she could help me with by working the scar to alleviate the tension in a muscle, or just working the muscles so that I heal with some balance. It's really hard to heal with balance. With radiation, they say, oh yeah, your one breast is going to be much higher than the other, almost no doubt about it. And I'm like, is that really true? Like, what if I just keep pushing it down?
Yeah, exactly. And, like, that can't be.
Yeah, like, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to believe that.
Right. I refuse to believe that.
Yeah. And Anne has helped me with that too. And another OT that I worked with has helped me just with like soft tissue work. And your insides are so messed up, so twisted up. Nerves are firing all over the place as they grow back. And I feel like I need to be doing more to help them heal positively, the right way, the way I want to look. And by having a couple of people kind of reinforce me and my thinking through exercise, it's happening. Like
Awesome.
I know I'm coming back together better than I would have had I just followed the directions in the binder.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's so, I mean, you know, there's only so much you can comprehend and take in. And
oh,
you know,
yeah.
it's like, I mean, you're literally, it's like a hurricane.
It's too much information.
It's too much.
And that's why you have to pick through and find
it's too much.
The best resources.
Yes.
Or talk to people that know.
Right. Who have been through, which that brings me to my point. Are you open to people reaching out to you?
Of course.
Okay. And they can find you at Lusso.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and tell them where Lusso is, the address.
So Lusso is a boutique in Clayton, 165 Carondelet Plaza, 63105. We're right near the Ritz-Carlton and Caldi's. Most people know Caldi's, right there on the corner. That's the boutique. It's a lot of fun. I'm always there. I oftentimes end up with some amazing conversations with people about their health and about their journey because we meet and connect and all of a sudden know that we can help one another. So that's a very natural place to meet.
Yeah.
But you can always call me too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful boutique. There's all sorts of really beautiful, I mean, clothes, decor, I mean, jewelry. It's a beautiful place. And it's the story behind it
place.
with all, I mean, you know, you're one of 4 owners. There's a lot. There's just, you've been around for 20 years.
25 years.
25 years.
This is our 25-year anniversary.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So if you haven't been, you're in St. Louis, please come. If you come visit St. Louis, check it out. You said a lot of your clientele are travelers, people that come in and buy things that are unique to Lusso. And,
it's really nice. It keeps it interesting.
Check out Lusso Style. I need to get
Lusso
some.
Style. Yeah, they're killing it.
I need to get some Atlanta Falcons gear. I remember talking to them about when Troy was being drafted because they weren't in the NFL yet.
Okay.
I remember being like, when he joins whatever team he's in, he's like, he gets on.
Get
it
next.
Yeah. Because they were so sweet. That was, you know, back in the day. But
no, they're making that happen.
It's amazing.
And the NFL is going to be huge.
It is.
For sure. Once you bust that door down.
Right. Which they have some cute Chiefs stuff. You have cute
Chiefs
stuff.
They do. Yeah, we have cute Chiefs stuff
in
that
your
people
store
have been
right
coming
now.
in for because apparently the Super Bowl's this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently it is. So
yeah, that'll be fun. I bet we'll get some people to come get the last few pieces of cute sweaters and
that black jacket. There's a
that denim jacket is the cutest
with Chiefs on the back.
Yeah, I should have worn that today.
You should have.
I know.
That's all right. I like what you wore. To wrap this up, first of all, thank you for coming on and being so open and vulnerable with your story. I mean, this can't be easy, you know, and you're just coming out of it, right? And it's going to be a part of your life forever. And it's like working through this but being open and vulnerable and sharing with me and us. You know, there's no doubt in my mind that you've helped somebody today. And I think
I sure hope so.
Yeah.
That to me was the hardest part. Yeah. Not having a friend I could say, so where are you at today?
Right.
How are you feeling today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could be that person.
I would love to be that person. I do feel like I learned a lot. I feel like certain people very special to the world fell into my lap and need exposure as well. And are a good example of just looking past the black and white.
Yeah.
And doing what's best for you.
I remember when one last thing, and we'll wrap it up, you telling me what you had been through. And like, it was, you know, the same time Kyle was going through. And so I felt, I'm like, how did I not know?
Oh yeah.
You know, like I felt bad, but then I'm like, I've been dealing with, you know, it just totally takes over your world.
It does. You can't think about anything else.
You can't. So anyway.
And for a long time, you know, I still feel like I should be up and out of here and feeling great about life.
Right. Exactly.
And just get back to myself.
Exactly.
But I am not.
Right.
Because I'm dealing with some shit right now.
Right.
You know, it's ongoing and I need to talk about it and work through it.
Exactly.
And I wish it was gone, but it's not.
And you're not alone. Because
No.
from a caregiver standpoint, I feel like I'm in the
Right.
exact same boat.
Yeah.
Very different from a patient.
Yes.
Very different. But I
No,
feel like
but
we should be able to be
the
like,
importance of the caregiver goes so far beyond what I ever imagined. And seeing what my husband and my sisters could do to care for me in yucky ways, there's nothing like it.
it's crazy what cancer does. It really is. So,
It is. It is. I hope my husband feels the same way, but I feel like we're closer than ever.
Of course.
I hope he does.
I'm sure he does.
He might be really annoyed with me.
No, I need to bring. I need to bring him on.
Yeah. Right. He
I
should. He should, because he's got a lot to say and did a lot that he never thought he would know how to do.
Yeah, I should bring him on. You should connect us. If there's one thing that you want to say to everybody, one piece of advice.
Oh gosh.
I know. I mean, we already talked about a lot of things, but if there's one thing that you want listeners to remember, they're going to remember a lot, but something you want to
what I've carried with me almost from day one, because of the people who showed up to help me get through this. And it's a handful of people. You know how we have all these friends, but really that handful. So that handful of people, I have tried to acknowledge, and I've tried to thank, and I have tried to tell them what little thing they might have done, how it meant so much to me and got me through a day. You know, whether it was a note from a perfect stranger or flowers, that beautiful massage, you know, my gratitude is endless. I get really stuck because I felt like I got so much good out of cancer, which is a hard thing to say when I was where I was during really bad times. But it was because of the really positive, beautiful, supportive people that kept showing up.
Yeah.
I would just say thank you again to them. And I literally have made it my life's mission to show my gratitude in as many ways as possible. And it's not easy when you're busy and you just want to get back on track in your real life. But that's kept the conversation going. And then hopefully those people can then in turn have that conversation with people who might be like, oh, I felt a lump. What do you think I should do? Or, how often do you go to the mammogram doctor? How often do you self-check? You know, those conversations just need to happen in a trickling effect. You know, I can't say that over and over. I mean, I do, but
and it matters.
It gets old, and you feel like,
I get it.
But it's just the message of just be aware, be cool, you know, help people know their value.
Yeah,
too.
gratitude.
So you know, people struggling aren't
right
bringing themselves down.
Right.
Yeah. So I have so much gratitude that it's like bursting out of my brain, and
I love that.
And I think the people know who I cherish so much for getting me through what I had to get through.
Yeah. Yeah. Showing gratitude is huge, no matter where we are, where you are in your journey. It's really powerful. And so, that's an amazing message.
Yeah. Because I know people are afraid to, it's a kind of a different subject, but on the same lines, but people don't know what to do. They're afraid of what to say. They don't want to bother you. They don't want to wake you up. They don't want to do the wrong thing. But it's pretty easy to find out what the best thing is. To do for somebody who's in a struggling situation.
Yeah.
Just show up.
Show up, leave something, gift cards to that.
Yeah.
What is it? One more time, the place that
Vivia Concierge.
Vivia Concierge. They're actually going to come to my house and do some services.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Because they don't just do oncology care. They
do so much.
But
so much.
It's doctors. It's actually physicians who.
And they are the only company so far in town. I mean, I would have had to have gone to Chicago or LA to get any type of knowledge or treatment that the oncology aesthetics department of theirs took care of.
So that would be an awesome gift card for anybody who
No kidding.
is
And
going through
nice,
of any amount,
nice.
because they do all sorts
Oh
of
my
things.
gosh, yeah, yeah. And the education that you get from it
Right.
too, they're very knowledgeable people.
Yeah.
And they really understood that I just wanted to feel good for just a day.
Right. We need to bring them on here. It'd be
Yeah,
good to bring
they're
them on here.
such good people. There's so much talent. And
Yeah.
I know they are newer and growing in St. Louis, and
Yeah.
a lot of people have learned about them and appreciate them. But there's people like that all over. You just got to
Yeah.
search for them
You do.
when you know you need them.
Need your own. You have to be your own advocate.
Yeah.
For sure. So
Acupuncture was another one that I fell into because of some conversation I had with the oncology aesthetics gal, Kim. You know, we were like, maybe we just need to go to the other side and do some acupuncture needling, and that fixed something that was a problem that nobody else could fix.
Amazing.
Yeah.
See, all these things. You're a wealth of knowledge. So any of you reach out to her. What's the best place to reach out?
Thanks. You know, my email is Kristen at lussohome.com. Kristen.
Okay.
I'm always quick to answer and then call, you know.
Yeah. Or just go in the store.
Or just go in the store. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's an easy pop in.
So cute. I love it.
Yeah. And I would love to talk to anybody and just help somebody with any one little thing. It would make my day.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. So fun to hang out with you.
Yeah, I know. And
Appreciate you so much.
We're going to stay in touch and we're friends. So this is just, just a fun little thing for us.
I look forward to that. I'm happy for you. And I know we're both in a similar situation coming out of something pretty nasty after a couple of years.
Traumatic.
So
I mean,
I got your back on that.
Yeah. And I have your back too. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you to all of you for listening today to the Yes We Can podcast or watching. Please be sure to like, subscribe, send all your family and friends, comment, and we'll see you back next week.
Thank you.